The street finds its own uses for things. That wasn't me. That line you just heard, indistinguishable from my actual voice, was generated by AI. You had no idea. Wake up. You already live in a cyberpunk world. Your phone tracks everything that you do, your boss monitors if you're active, and somehow your computer serves you ads for products that you were just thinking about. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Those headlines, they aren't from the latest episode of Black Mirror either. This is the news, today, tomorrow, right now. But before the metaverse was born, Neil Stephenson coined the term in Snow Crash. Before the internet took over every aspect of our lives, William Gibson imagined cyberspace, a shared digital world operating 24/7. Before the walled city of Kowloon was rubble, Metropolis and Dredge showed us vertical cities crushing the poor. The loop of life imitating art and art imitating life has never felt more obvious than with cyberpunk. So what actually is cyberpunk? Where did it come from? Cyberpunk is a subgenre, or more accurately, a mode of science fiction. It heavily leans to the soft side of sci-fi, meaning it uses technology as a propellant to explore character relationships, psychology, philosophy, and societal dynamics. It features countercultural anti-heroes trapped in dehumanized, high-tech dystopias. These are worlds where corporations wear the crowns, megacities and urban sprawls house the world's population, and the fusion of flesh and machine is the new normal. You've heard this before, but summed up best, cyberpunk is high-tech and low-life. Technology's never been more widespread and accessible. Societal decay has never been higher. Cyberpunk is a socio-economic critique with a counter-argument for rapid technological progress. It boldly claims that technology that outpaces our capacity to nurture our ethics, our morality, and to understand our human nature means regression, not progression. And that's especially true when this technology aggregates in the hands of a few. There are even more clues if we break down the term. Cyber. It originates from Norbert Wiener's cybernetics, the study of self-regulating feedback loops between systems. These insights set a theoretical foundation for everything from electronic engineering and computing to automation, telecommunications, and neuroscience. In the context of cyberpunk, this usually means man and machine, flesh and metal. Self-regulating systems that blur the boundary between human and artificial. I think you can begin to see where this might be problematic, especially with everything I mentioned just minutes ago. The root of cybernetics is the best example to visualize this. Kybernetes, it's Greek for steersman. Moving a ship's rudder creates a feedback loop. Adjust the angle, adjust the direction. You might think punk is a little bit more self-explanatory, but punk isn't just about mohawks and mosh pits. Punk is a mentality first and foremost. It's counter-authoritarian, it's anti-establishment, and it's a refusal to submit. It's saying no when the system says comply. It's an outright rejection of fatalism to some, accepting it but moving forward anyways for others. It's a do-it-yourself attitude for everything, modifying your tech, repurposing and weaponizing scraps, and puncturing through the established order in any way that you can. That intro sentence, the street finds its own uses for things, that's punk. Without punk, you likely just have dystopian sci-fi with cool gadgets. With it, you have critique, you have satire, and you have edge. You have gonzo journalism, you have psychotic rebels, and amphetamine-addicted hackers. And they are all very, very pissed off. Cyberpunk, it's a bit of an oxymoron if you think about it. So who took these two seemingly unrelated ideas and blended them together? Who is the mad lad behind all of this? The actual term was created in the early 1980s by Bruce Bethke, who used it as the title for his short story. Now, Bethke was actively trying to invent a new term that fused the juxtaposition of punk attitudes and high technology. His motivation was just to create a snappy, one-word title that editors could remember. But the term was actually popularized by Gardner Dozois, using it in his December article Science Fiction in the 80s. Except he wasn't using it to describe Bethke. He was mainly using it to describe William Gibson and other writers in the 80s cyberpunk movement. Had Dozois not labeled them cyberpunks, we might be calling this genre something entirely different. And therein lies the rocket fuel for the operating system of the genre. Neuromancer, the quintessential cyberpunk novel published in 1984. A blend of noir grit, substance-abusing hackers, street samurai, and corporate interests. By Bethke's own admission, he credits Neuromancer as the real defining work of the movement. And for good reason. So if Neuromancer is the operating system of the genre, what's the rocket fuel for the UI of the genre, the look of the genre? That's Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott and featuring Harrison Ford, released in 1982. It's the quintessential hard-boiled cyber-noir adapted from Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. And while this was the movement in the West, Eastern cyberpunk was forming its own lineage, making its biggest impact in manga and anime. Bruce invented the word, Dozois popularized it, Gibson built the world, and Ridley Scott formed the cinematic language. Make no mistake, this was all on the shoulders of the influences, works, and movements mainly in the West and in Europe, but we'll get into that in the future. Despite what you might hear, the genre does not have definitive bounds, and doesn't fit into a neat, tidy box. But there are 8 core ingredients in the formula of cyberpunk, and they'll all fit on this wonderful nutritional label. So you're gonna know if you're getting empty calories or the real meal deal. Now, not every work has to include all 8 in its formula, and they can be seasoned to taste with additional spices, some fairly critical to the overall dish, akin to sugar and salt, and some a little bit more niche. Ingredient 1, corporate rule. In cyberpunk, corporations don't just sell you products. They function as governments, militaries, and infrastructure all rolled into one package. They are the ones writing and rewriting the rules, whether explicitly or implicitly, and they enforce these rules with private armies and lucrative contracts. They own the flow of information, they control the media, and they're quietly pulling the strings. This is a core ingredient. You extract this from the cyberpunk formula, and you water down its impact. Cyberpunk stories use corporations to ask potent questions. What happens when profit has more power than policy? When unelected boards of corporate execs have more power than a president or a parliament, every part of your life is downstream of corporate incentive. And that water is usually tainted. I'm gonna give you 3 examples. Tyrell Corporation and Blade Runner. They're the ones building artificial life and replicants, and they're effectively playing God. They answer to nobody. Tessier Ashpool and Neuromancer is also a good example. This is an enigmatic orbital family empire with a god-tier AI that's totally insulated and operating through obscurity. Not much is known about them at all. Explicit example and implicit example. Arasaka kinda toes the line between both. It's a megacorp with its own army, black ops, political puppets, but it does a lot of shady stuff behind the scenes. All equally powerful in their own right, but what makes cyberpunk so potent is that there's usually a real-world parallel, and this is going to be true for every single ingredient. Corporations like Apple, Google, Meta, Amazon, Tencent, Nvidia, these are companies with GDP-sized valuations. They effectively have private data empires, and they have more direct influence on your daily routine and reality than your local government. Ingredient 2, tech-driven inequality. In a cyberpunk dystopia, advanced technology is not a rising sea that raises all ships. It doesn't increase quality of life for the marginalized, nor does it flatten class divides. In fact, it's used as just another wedge in the system. The wealthy use the best tech to extend health, lifespan, and amass control. The poor are kept siloed on the streets through products that range from pacifying to predatory. Black market upgrades in the do-it-yourself underground market is really no better, and with it comes a slew of new issues. Traditional, utopian sci-fi likes to say that technology is an equalizer, and that it can free us from the human suffering of today. For everybody. Cyberpunk flips that. What if the cable that you're jacking into the back of your skull is actually just a chain? You're effectively a rabid dog with a stake in the ground. Again, the issue is not the tech itself. It's when the tech grows without the guardrails of humanity, you can't be surprised when we're left in the gutter. 3 examples of this. Cyberpsychosis. Let's take Edgerunners for example. The cost of upward mobility and a better life is really only achievable through reckless augmentation. Our boy Martinez pushes a little bit too far and that tech eats him alive. Blade Runner is another standout example. These are essentially engineered slaves that look no different than humans and have a 4-year lifespan. The megacorps who make these replicants are creating disposable labor. I think you can think of a modern example of this one. Ingredient 3, surveillance and data extraction. In many genre works, everything is watched and logged. Your movements, your biometrics, your relationships, your thought patterns, they're turned into data and weaponized as products. Privacy is a grayed out opt-in box. You no longer have a right to privacy. You're not a person, you're data with purchasing power. You'll see this manifest in a few different ways. You have construct ROMs from Neuromancer. These are dead hackers recycled into software tools. They have little to no agency. You have Netwatch and the Turing police. They're monitoring the internet. They're policing the flow of information. And they're essentially judge, jury, and executioner, deciding on what intelligence is allowed to exist and what isn't. And then of course you have the data economies. Information is leverage. And with new methods to get this information, it creates a whole new economy, whether legit or illicit. Think about it like this. Have you ever seen Shark Week? They pull the shark out of the ocean, they stick the little tracker doodad on it, and set him off like he's Free Willy. You're just a glorified shark, except you have like about 300 trackers on your fins. You're fully mapped out. Ingredient 4, identity and transhumanism. In many genre works, bodies become modular, memories become editable, and personalities become files. Every bodily function can be associated to a computer function. It's the concept of that self-regulating feedback loop. As long as it's accurately regulating, you're all good. This is where cyberpunk and the soft side of sci-fi really shines. Cyberpunk asks, at what point do you stop being you? It doesn't just explore what tech can do, that's obvious. It asks what we lose when we use it. You see this in some of the greats. Ghost in the Shell with the Puppet Master. This is an intelligence born from data claiming personhood, forcing a legal and philosophical crisis. Are artificial intelligences different than human intelligences? What's to say that this intelligence doesn't have a right to life? You also have Deckard's ambiguity. The subtext in Blade Runner is Deckard human? At the end of the day, does it matter? The real-world parallels here are brain-computer interfaces, deep fake identities, AI voice clones like the intro of the video, and the algorithms that know you better than your own family. Here's a question for you. Who do you tell your deepest and darkest secrets to? Is it your family or is it Google?
I want to be real for you.
You are real for me.
Ingredient 5, cyberspace. In cyberpunk works, networks, simulations, and virtual spaces aren't just tools. They're actually parallel realities where the power balance can be shifted. It's an ecosystem of its own, and in many ways is functionally similar to outer space in terms of mystery and awe. Cyberspace in cyberpunk dystopias, whether it's called the net or the matrix, is as legit a place as meat space. And many times it even treats this digital layer as more consequential than the physical streets. The power lives where information flows, but that also means that the real becomes subjective. If you control the network, you control reality. Cyberspace is the most impactful, equally deadly landscape for punks trying to make that impact. And yeah, it's used as a veil to show the inability to categorize reality. You see this in cyberspace in Neuromancer, a hallucinatory dataverse where console cowboys jack in.
Cyberspace, a consensual hallucination experienced daily by billions of legitimate operators in every nation, by children being taught mathematical concepts, a graphic representation of data abstracted from the banks of every computer in the human system, unthinkable complexity, lines of light ranged in the non-space of the mind, clusters and constellations of data, like city lights receding.
You see this in The Matrix, which simply explores that ultimate question: what is real? And you see this a little differently when it comes to the old net and the black wall in Cyberpunk 2077. But hackers alone don't make something cyberpunk. You need that systemic critique, you need the dystopia, and you need punk resistance. Cyberspace is the canvas to tell stories of rebellion, transhumanism, the surreality of reality, and can have spiritual connotations. I really don't need to tell you the real world parallels here. It's VR, it's NFT, it's Web3, it's this always online life of social media. It's YouTube right now, right here. More questions. Has your smartphone essentially become one with you? You're already constantly jacked in. you might as well have a cyber limb. But do you control the feedback system, or does the feedback system control you? Ingredient 6, ecological collapse in megacities. The natural world is either dead, dying, or inaccessible. Humanity usually retreats into massive, vertical, hyperdense cities where nature is a luxury product or can only be seen in a simulation. The city itself is the antagonist. Its brutalist skyscrapers might as well be prison bars, or at the very least a reminder to not rock the boat of the established authority or order. These megacities introduced the vertical class system. This is where you have poverty on the jungle floor, wealth in the penthouses, and off-world colonies for the ultra-elite. Social stratification highlighted by literal vertical stratification. You'll see this in Peach Trees and Dread, Neo Tokyo and Akira, and of course most other cyberpunk stories. Megacities usually exist because of this ecological collapse. The Earth has usually been pillaged and there is a point of no return. And here we have another way that the megacity literally puts you in a chokehold. You physically can't escape. If you escape, you're only going to find an irradiated wasteland. Ingredient 7, punk resistance and noir DNA. Again, these two could be separated. They very much justify their own ingredients, but they go well together. In these stories, the street does fight back, but poorly, inconsistently, and often self-destructively. Marginalized street dwellers, data thieves, mercs, and misfits fighting, or just surviving against systems too big to topple. Basing the system on its terms is pointless if not suicide. It's playing whack-a-mole with a toothpick against a 20-headed hydra. But cyberpunk also has deep roots in film noir, and borrows heavily from it in its neo-noir depictions. This is where cyberpunk gets its soul from. The soul that you can't kill. Punk is like its serrated teeth. It's the edge. Noir gives it heart-wrenching tragedy. It's bleeding out on a sidewalk. When works are more punk-centric, it dangles hope that maybe, just maybe, this do-it-yourself street resistance mind virus can actually spread. When it skews more noir, it's hard-boiled detectives as central protagonists, uncovering conspiracies that they really can't stop. Victories are usually hollow. This is an interesting one because the examples are a little bit different. You'll see this more traditionally in the biker gangs in Akira, and the mercenary that refuses to be owned in Molly Millions and Neuromancer, but you'll also see this in someone like Elliot from Mr. Robot. You wouldn't catch him dead in a real riot, but get him in front of a computer and he can take the whole world down. You can also see this in replicants in Blade Runner, something that you wouldn't instantly think of as punk. Here, the punk themes manifest in the replicants, their desire to break free from enslavement. Their ideology is the mind virus for Deckard, who at first is rigid and anything but punk. Punk and noir is really the not-so-secret ingredient. Ingredient 8, escapism and substance use. In cyberpunk worlds, drugs, both chemical and technological, are everywhere. They're escapism for those trapped at the bottom, they're performance enhancers for corporate executives and military agents, and they're also pacification tools. These realities are pretty much unbearable, so this can be as omnipresent as tech, or associated with the tech. Chemical substances like Case's addiction, or the gangs in Akira poppin' pills. You have Braindance, SimStim, and the Squid headset as this technological escape. And then you have the performance drugs. You have smart drugs, combat stims, time-slowing inhalers like in Dread. It can even be used a little bit more aggressively. Take for instance Brave New World with Soma. And yeah, our real world has addictions too. Here's where you can start with cyberpunk when it comes to novels, films, animes, games, and comics. I'll have my charts on screen to give you a taste test, but as always, you can choose to read the labels or just consume guilt-free. For books, I have Neuromancer, Do Androids Dream, and Snow Crash. For films, definitely Blade Runner. I personally prefer 2049, but also explore The Matrix, which is a little bit more mainstream, and Dread, which really leans into that stylized neo-noir violence. For anime, this is a pretty easy one, Ghost in the Shell, Akira, and Edgerunners. You won't go wrong with any of those. Games-wise, obviously Cyberpunk 2077, but also Deus Ex. So why the hell does it matter? Well, I've just showed you. Those novelists in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and the whole cyberpunk movement, yeah, they're looking more prophetic every day. You already live in a cyberpunk world. Now let's understand how we got here. Welcome to Cyberpunk 101. This is your intro, your primer to the cyberpunk genre. Each episode will get a little bit more granular, and I've linked episode 2 on screen for you, so I'll see you there.